Today, my guest is an engaging and talented entrepreneur whose passion for science is now matched equally by his passion and dedication to business success.
Many of the nutrients in health products, whether it's foods or supplements, they don't actually reach the bloodstream. Sometimes up to 99% is wasted. It's all going out through your pee. We've created technology that makes food and health products much more effective. Since the first business inception, I've probably done about 40 to 50 courses. I think that's really important to be the best leader you can when you're kind of navigating the choppy waters of a startup.
No unicorns, no brands, just hardworking people who built their business from the ground up, sharing their experience so others can learn. Presented by Larissa Feeney from Kinore. This is Real Business Conversations.
That's just what we do.
Hello, I'm Larissa Feeney, CEO and founder at Kinore Finance and Business Services. In this episode, we'll explore how scientific knowledge, startup grit and market awareness come together to build something truly impactful. We'll talk about spotting a gap in the wellness industry, developing proprietary technology, navigating early stage funding, and the challenges of scaling a science-led business in a competitive space. Our guest today has a background in neuroscience, biotechnology, and diagnostics, and previously founded a CBD wellness brand that sparked the idea for his latest venture. Now he's applying those lessons to a new challenge, making nutrients work better for the body. It's a pleasure to welcome the founder and CEO of Biovit Technologies, Nicholas Deeney. Hi, Nicholas.
Hi, how are you? Pleasure to be here.
So you must have had an interest in science. I know you did your degree in Trinity. I know you did a master's in, was it UCD?
Yeah, and biotech, yeah.
And biotech. So you must have had an interest in science right back to secondary school, did you? Or before that?
Oh, yeah. A long way before that, really, since as long as I can remember, yeah.
And was there anybody in the family that led you in that direction, or how did you develop that interest in the first place? Do you remember?
I was the total black sheep. My whole family are in finance, stockbroking backgrounds. So I remember at the very start when I was maybe 14 or 15, I wanted to be a doctor originally. And then how that just evolved into different things. I was a specific interests, and then that led me away because I thought being a doctor is very specific. I didn't want to be just tied down to one medical profession. So I thought, okay, I get into science. If I still like it, I'll go and do kind of postgrad medicine, and then ended up finding different niches and different interests. But yeah, when it comes to family, all finance.
Are there any entrepreneurs in the family?
Yes and no.
Okay.
None of them really had their own business for a number of years. So it was bits here and there, you know. So
you graduated from UCD. What led you to start the first business? And maybe tell us a little bit about what that was.
Okay, I saw a job, product development, working on HIV diagnostic devices, and went into a company called Trinity Biotech. I worked on the COVID tests except for HIV. So instead of putting a drop of saliva, we put in a drop of blood, and you're testing the presence, the two lines, control and test, the two lines for HIV instead of COVID. And then at the same time, I was offered a PhD in UCD, ended up taking it, re-entered academia. This was the start of COVID, started the PhD in September. And then with less than, I think it was 9 months later, started the business. I didn't really hesitate, to be honest.
What made the decision so easy for you?
I was just fascinated in it. I realized I was spending more time on the business than the PhD itself. The research that I probably should have been doing on the PhD, I was actually doing on the interactions of different anti-inflammatories with the nervous system because the neuroscience background. And I thought it was really leaning into the business research as opposed to the PhD research. So that was really the kind of, okay, look, you need to make a decision here. And so I just based it on logic, really, as in based on how much time I was spending on it.
So it made sense to you. You could see the potential in it, maybe.
Yeah. The unknown excited me. Obviously, I was fearful of it, but at the same time, that's what got me going. That's what got me ticking. So I thought, okay, let's go for it.
Talk to us about that business. What was the product?
It was mainly a CBD brand. I started taking this product for sleep and kind of anxiety and stress. And after a week, nothing, didn't really work. After 2 weeks, didn't really work. 3 to 4, okay, something's happening here. After about 5 or 6 weeks, which is a decent amount of time to stick with something without feeling much results at the start, I thought, okay, this is great. Why isn't this on every shelf? So then I started going into, I suppose, the COAs, which is like the batch analysis of what is exactly in this bottle versus what it says on the label.
Just to be clear, this is CBD oil that you would put under your tongue.
Yes,
is that
exactly.
right?
Yeah.
And the idea is that it helps with anxiety.
Yes.
Or helps to calm in stressful situations. Okay.
Yeah, so it's supposed to interact with your nervous system and essentially bring it down a bit. So if you're, let's say, hyper stressed, it's supposed to bring it down slightly to the normal levels, if you want to call it that. But it was only when I realized that a lot of the CBD products out there shouldn't be out there. They shouldn't be on the shelves. In that, for example, one would say we have 1,000 milligrams, but when you look at the batch records, it may have 500. And then in the next batch, it may have 1,500. So the variance was just unbelievable. Based on this information and the potential, I thought, okay, well, it's growing. So let's create a brand that's based on quality and consistency. And then that'll be the USP. I didn't really think about it a huge amount. I just thought, look, opportunity plus I'll just make a better product because there's so many different manufacturers.
You were thinking from your own experience, this product took 6 weeks to work. And with your scientific background, you were thinking, well, it shouldn't take 6 weeks to work.
Yeah.
Something's not right here. I can create something that works a lot quicker.
Yeah. And have something that's safer and more consistent on the market. It was only when I started going into the published papers, getting into the nitty gritties of it, I saw a tiny little section in one of these papers saying, oh, well, there's only so effective these ingredients and products can be because they have poor absorption, what's called bioavailability. So bioavailability is basically how much gets into your bloodstream versus how much you take. They were saying that the bioavailability of some of these were as low as 1% and an average around 10%. So I thought, well, I'm selling a bottle for 30 mils and you're saying there's a bioavailability of 10%. So I'm only delivering roughly €15 worth of value to this €150 bottle. That's what then begun everything. That was the starting point.
Okay. So this is what fascinates me. And I know we'll get to this later whenever we're talking about your current business. So, I mean, because we're sold so much, online, we're told we should be, taking all of these supplements and, this is going to help us. Yeah. And we trust it. But the reality is that that's not the case at all.
Unfortunately not. And I tend to burst a lot of bubbles. And I don't mean to when I say this, because people are saying, I'm taking these turmeric shots and I'm taking these anti-inflammatories and taking all these vitamins, minerals, whatever it may be. And I'm there kind of thinking in my head, okay, that only has about 5% bioavailability. So you're really not, unless you eat it by the kilo with a spoon, there's only so beneficial they can be, So, and I thought this was kind of preposterous and I thought it was just unacceptable, really. So I just went around to manufacturers and said, I went to about 40 around the world. And I said, look, first of all, 1, I assume you're aware of the problem. 2, what's the solution? Let me just repackage it. Let me white label it and sell it on. And there's my USP. And that's how I differentiate. Either they were presenting ideas that it was kind of putting lipstick on a pig, if you want to call it that, in that they were trying to give you a solution that wasn't actually a solution. There was no scientific evidence behind it. There was nothing to it. They just said, oh yeah, this works and that increases it. I'd say, okay, right, how does it do that? And where's the evidence? Oh, well, this, that and the other. They just waffle. They just beat around the bush. And then the other ones that were validated were so expensive and also outdated and also not very efficient. So like liposomal, you'll see it in pharmacies, liposomal vitamin C, liposomal this, liposomal that. It's been around since the 60s, but there are gaps. So this is when I thought, okay, I briefly studied drug delivery systems in my master's and I thought, right, I'll apply one of them to this, to one of the drug delivery systems to nutrients. And that obviously doesn't work. So I went about just putting together version 1, version 1.1, version 1.2 of creating a delivery system for nutrients.
So this is the current business you're talking about now, is it, Nicholas?
Yes.
Or have you, right.
Yes.
Okay. So whenever you identify this challenge, and it's a challenge worldwide, Essentially, what you're trying to do is you're trying to get as much as possible of the nutrient into the bloodstream.
We're trying to exactly do that, maximize the nutritional value of everyday food and drink products. You go into a supermarket. Let's take one section. You go into the refrigerated drinks aisle. You pick up a drink. You'll struggle to find a drink that's not full and fortified with different nutrients, from vitamins to minerals to salts to whatever it is. You can look at the thing, added nutrients, added this, added that, in a positive way. I'm not saying it's negative, but while they're all full of fortified with different nutrients, that means they have the same problem. They face the same problem in that a lot of these nutrients don't effectively get into the body. Actually, someone who I'm working with at the moment only recently, they said, oh, it's like putting premium fuel into your car, but before the fuel reaches the engine, it leaks out onto the floor. It's all going out through your pee.
So is what you're telling me that I'm not getting all the nutrients from those products?
Well, no. So there's different ways that are better than others, you know? And so, for example, like effervescent tablets, they're quite good at being absorbed, and versus, let's say, a tablet or a capsule. So it's specific nutrients. Not every nutrient is the same. So, for example, vitamin A absorbs quite poorly into the body, roughly 5%, whereas vitamin C is about 85%. So I'm not saying that. I'm saying some nutrients, for example, the ones we're working on are the ones that are poorest bioavailability, and they are vitamins A, vitamin D, vitamin E, vitamin K. You can get into more niche ones like turmeric, CoQ10, quercetin, all this. There's a list of about 10 or 12 that we're working on. And then we will eventually expand into the other ones as well.
Okay, so those specific ones that you're working on now, so say the turmeric, for example.
Yes.
A lot of people will buy the shots, or, you know, they'll include them in their shakes or whatever. There's good recognition now on the benefits of nutrients like that.
Yeah.
So as you say, you're bursting a lot of bubbles if you tell us all that we're taking this stuff and it doesn't actually do us any good. What's the solution that you're developing to help overcome this challenge?
So we've created a technology that essentially, it looks at two sides, or it solves two problems. So first of all, let's say you ingest a protein shake that has added vitamins to it. One thing is, it needs to get to the site of absorption in the human body, which is the small intestine. The internal environment of the body is very harsh. There's different pH changes, different enzymes, the liver is there. Everything is there to break down these ingredients, these nutrients. So first of all, you need to protect against this degradation to ensure that it gets and reaches the site of absorption. Then once you're at the site of absorption, then it can't absorb across the small intestinal wall. It can't get across that wall into the bloodstream. It needs to get around into the bloodstream so it can distribute around the body and have positive effect. So what we do is we provide that protection, and we also provide that delivery in that the absorption across the intestinal wall to get into the bloodstream. So there's two sides of it: the technology, protection, and absorption. That's what we look at.
So once you have it developed, and you're developing it at the moment, is that right?
Yeah, we're doing our first, I suppose, early stage human testing at the moment.
Okay, so good luck with that.
Yeah.
Who is your customer? Because I'm not your customer, if I understand it correctly. You're not selling to me directly. Who are you selling to?
If you want to get into, I suppose, the business side of it, there's two business models. We're taking a targeted approach, a phased approach. We're using a contract manufacturer that will use our process and use our formulations to bulk produce, let's say, 1 ton or 10 tons, whatever the customer wants, of vitamins. So we'll be a bulk ingredient supplier. And then the phase 2 approach, and this is depending on IP, because we're in the middle of progressing the IP for the patent, that will be licensing up the technology directly to the manufacturers and producers. So the manufacturers of fortified foods, fortified beverages, and health supplements. They're our target customers, not really brands, because the brands go to the manufacturers. So we're going earlier than the brands. We're not consumer based. We're not B2C. We're going directly targeting these large manufacturing facilities and, let's say, multinationals. You know. So
you're going directly to them, and then the brands would be buying off them.
Exactly.
And your USP. I understand the USP to me, right? I understand that I'm going to be buying the same thing as I've always bought, but it'll work better.
We've two actually USPs: more effective end products through enhanced absorption, but then also lower COGS, lower cost of goods for manufacturers. If you can elevate the absorption of an ingredient by 10, 20, 50x, you're not going to typically add in the same amount. You're going to reduce the amount you put in. So your inputs are reduced, your manufacturing costs go down, and while you also have the more effective end product, therefore the manufacturers can increase their margins that way. So they have a win-win on both sides.
I was wondering, you see, because I was getting the benefit to me as a consumer, but in my head I was thinking, what's in it for the manufacturer? Because are they going to have to charge more, but actually it'll cost them less?
Yeah, so funny you say that. I initially came into this saying, oh, reduce the COGS, and then manufacturers, multinationals will be happy. Let's say you talk to the likes of Danone or Nestle or something. They buy at such large volumes that they can almost dictate what price they pay for it, you know? Like, as in they are ordering thousands of tons. But when I actually speak to them, there's about 60% of them that lean into, no, we're actually going to add in, of course we'll add in less, but we're not going to add in, let's say if we 10x the absorption for something, we're not going to add in 10% and just keep the same efficacy, if you want to call it that. They said we're going to add in still a significant amount, but we'll have a much better product, because they want to scream and shout from mountaintops saying we have the best product in the market. That they want to be the differentiators. Costs, obviously, unless it's some crazy extortionate cost, they'll start talking about that, but we're not. So they can almost dictate the costs, and but they want the effective product. That's what they want.
So they want to be able to say that they have the best product, but they need to say why they have the best product.
Yes.
And if they can get hold of your solution, then they can say we have the best product because we have the highest efficacy. That's the word, isn't it?
Well, efficacy is more a pharma word, but yeah, the most effective product based on the absorption. Yeah.
Okay. Fascinating. Okay, so sticking with the business side of it then, because I understand the science, I think it's great. It makes sense to me. But whenever you start up a business like you've started, obviously revenue generation is way in the future because you have to develop the product, you have to get it market ready, you have to get to the customer. What about the competition, Nicholas? You must have competition. There must be other companies that are trying to do what you do.
It's really only a new enough space. So the competitors, they're certainly out there. There's competitors out there that we're certainly not aware of. One of them we are aware of and has good results for raising the absorption, impressive technology, but their limitation is their technology only works, one, in liquid form, and two, in high concentration liquids. So for example, they can only do liquid soft gels. So think of like omega-3 fish oils. So you have, let's say, a vitamin or an antioxidant in that. But if you, let's say, break open that soft gel and put it into a beverage, let's say a smoothie or a juice or something like that, the technology breaks apart. So that's our difference. We can go into foods, beverages and supplements, and these other guys who are producing good results, but they're limited to supplements and soft gels.
Okay.
Yeah.
It is a fast moving area, and it's going to move faster, isn't it? As awareness grows around the importance of this area. Yeah. Okay.
Especially the way there's pharma involved in nutraceuticals. So yeah, you're up against big competition.
Talk to us about your fundraising journey so far, Nicholas.
God, it gives me so many headaches. It's such a stress. It's a hassle. It's so time consuming. Yeah, it's been really difficult because a lot of the stuff that we want to do, we're trying to get fundraising in order to prove that we can do what we say we can do. You needed someone to make a punt, and you needed someone to just back you and back the business plan, back you as a person. To be honest, when you're that early, they just back the founder or founders if there's more than one involved. That's really it. But and that I found incredibly difficult. I was knocking on loads of doors. The first person that opened the door actually was Enterprise Ireland. That getting the PSSF fund basically was 100,000 CLN convertible loan note. But then on the back of that came some press, and I went into an accelerator called the Further Accelerator in Dublin, and then that gave more press, and then that actually people were not knocking on the door, but people were coming saying, "Oh, look, we have a bit here. Do you want, like we're looking for investments," and that came in that way. So, but it's still a journey, and it's taken so long. We actually have just started our second fundraise.
So is this going to be like seed, or have you done seed already?
At the start, it was pre-seed, so now we're in seed. So
Okay.
it was still very early stage, but this is seed to get to that, secure the first contracts, secure clinical validation for a few different ingredients, and scale the team, and get the contract manufacturing and stuff.
From what you've just said, I'm guessing that this whole fundraising side of the business doesn't come easy to you.
I don't think it comes easy to anyone my age or their late 20s, very early 30s. It's harder because your network is much smaller. You're not friends with executives in different companies who can, one, give you advice, or two, introduce you to funders. The funding landscape in Ireland right now is very much geared towards AI SaaS software. Totally and utterly. Obviously, out of Galway in the West, you get your medtechs as well, but it is really geared towards that SaaS. And it makes it difficult because we've had to just venture abroad to try and get it. And we're talking to US VCs, European VCs mainly. I'm actually talking to no Irish VCs right now.
Oh, wow.
None at all, no. But Enterprise Ireland, again, going back to that, they opened the door, which led to more funding. And they've been great to date, actually, really have.
It's just a shame, though, that you're not getting support from Irish VCs.
Yeah, we don't fit the thesis, because the thesis is that kind of business model of low risk, high reward. We're hard tech, as in we've a lab and we've equipment and machinery. They want, or a lot of them seem to lean into softwares which are kind of low capital risk or lower. So yeah, it is difficult. Bit frustrating, but we have to just go out and target deep techs, food tech, agri tech VCs that lean into that. That's their investment thesis.
And for anybody listening, how did you even go about starting to build relationships with? Because Irish VCs, I get it. I mean, you can find them relatively easily. There's events and EI can support and all of that. How do you find them in the US or Europe?
Yeah, difficult. So I sign up to loads of different updates. So for example, there's one update, we have the Food Institute. It's a US company that gives you weekly updates of all the food industry news. And a segment of that is recent investments. So I would say it's from seed to or pre-seed to up to Series A. And I would always look at these. It might give 10 a week. And I click into them and be like, okay, first of all, how much do they raise? What is their company? Who funded it? And I ended up over the course of maybe 12 months building up this list of different VCs in the US, in Europe, mainly this way, and going out and naturally doing the old Google, but that doesn't really land you many places. And reaching out to them also, to give you an example, I got an automated email. I reached out to someone cold, emailed to this VC. I went into the person, found his LinkedIn, managed to find his email. I got an automated email. He just went on holidays. I receive 250 to 300 emails every day. I'm back in 10 days. I was like, okay, so 10 days time, that could be 2,500 emails later. Right, I'm lost in his inbox here if it hasn't already hit spam. So if you can, again, I went to San Francisco recently. That was the best way to meet VCs, getting on a plane. And it's really difficult because at early stages, you may not have the money to do this. And for so long, we just certainly didn't either. So I went to San Francisco, called up my EIDA, and I said, look, you have an office everywhere. Do you have anyone in San Francisco I can talk to? It put me onto the head of the West Coast EI. He said, who are you looking for? Thankfully, I said, these are the VCs I really like. We fit them. They fit us. Do you know any of them? And he came back with a few saying, yeah, here's an introduction. Here's an introduction. We happen to have an event. Come to the EI offices. I met loads of people at that event. And it kind of spread that way.
Brilliant. Yeah. Brilliant. It just goes to show, but I mean, you're doing all the work there, Nicholas, to make all of that happen. There's nobody there doing that for you, I suppose, is the message.
And it won't happen overnight. It takes months.
No.
Months.
Yeah. So, and then how do you manage or is it you in the background that's managing the cash flow as well as the fundraising to make sure that you don't run out of cash in the meantime?
It is. Yeah, it is absolutely.
Yeah.
Now for the fundraise that's just happening right now, there'll be other people involved that will be able to alleviate some of the stresses and pressures that we have right now. But at the start, you have to wear all the hats. One day you have to be the accountant, the next day a digital marketer, the next day product development. It also means you understand every aspect of the business.
Yeah, and it's necessary at the beginning. I think there's very
Absolutely.
few that get away with not doing that. So it is necessary, but it is hard and it is a slog, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
What about the team then? Have you been able to bring many onto the team?
So there's 4 of us at the moment. Lewis has a PhD in medicinal chemistry and has a deep interest in nutrition, and Nasir has a PhD in drug delivery systems from Paris. He joined the team most recently, and we've gone a different strategy. They've really bolstered the technology to a level that I never could have. So I'm now more the operations and business side, and then one of the other guys, Ross, is kind of business development partnership. So he brings in, let's say, investments, gets me in front of potential customers and that kind of stuff.
It just goes to show the importance of bringing people on better than yourself. Yeah.
But it's difficult though, because at the start you can't afford them. You can't afford people.
No, exactly.
No.
Yeah, no, it's really, really hard. And then you yourself, you have to make the transition from the doer to the leader, and that itself can be hard.
Yeah.
Do you do any of the programs that are available for your own development? I know EI have some programs, for example. Have you benefited from any of those yet?
Since the first business inception, which was let's say 4 years ago, I've probably done about 40 to 50 courses. Could be in like imports and exports, could be accounting, it could be whatever, product development, roadmaps. The Further Foundry was a big accelerator. I really liked that. So I think that development is absolutely necessary. Next week, I'm doing a leadership training course for 5 days in the UK. I think that's really important to be the best leader you can when you're kind of navigating the choppy waters of a startup.
Yeah, no, well done. Not every founder is like you though, Nicholas, where, you can recognize the importance of self-development and self-awareness and stepping away from the weeds or the day-to-day as much as you possibly can in such a small team. Not everybody sees that. And it's a real limiting factor if you can't see it,
Mm-hmm. Totally.
When do you hope, if you were to look forward 3 or 5 years in the future, when are you hoping to get this product to market or to have the company revenue generating?
Yeah, so we're actually drafting a proposal for our first customer at the moment. I'm not going to go into the details of it, but it's an end product that will end up in a pharmacy for a supplement, and we'd be applying our technology to that end product. And then there's another company we're looking about applying our technology to a singular ingredient. That's part of their big product portfolio. So I see it happening by the end of 2025. Now, in our plan, that would be more a bonus, right? We're not gearing towards that because in our plan, it's full market entry the end of 26. When I say that, that's like your scale-up process, which could take 9-12 months alone. You need to protect the IP in the meantime. There's a lot of stuff that needs to happen in tandem, for this to happen. And also sales cycles for manufacturers quite slow. We'll target initially, the strategies to target the early adopters, the agile movers, the agile brands that are smaller. And then that'll obviously build a case for the manufacturers and multinationals. But we are talking to multinationals now at the moment. They're household names and we're really excited with these opportunities. But quote unquote, they said, we're dinosaurs. We move really slowly. You guys will move 100 times faster than us. And I'm thinking that on there, okay, well, we have in our business plan rough sales cycle of 6 to 9 months. They said double it. And I'm there like, okay, that helps with my funding round, and we re-strategized and replanned, and that's fine. But it's certainly with the large players I'm talking about. They said they move slowly. But yeah, market entry, revenue generating, it's going to be 12 to 18 months, I imagine, with the potential of sooner.
Just whenever you're talking about multinationals and, those companies that you're in corresponding communication with, how do you find them? Is that your BD person that goes and finds those customers for you, or do you play a role there?
It's both.
Okay.
So, for example, I went to Amsterdam last week and I happened to be put in front of a few interesting multinationals and VCs as well. And so it was a case of going to these events, trade shows, targeting who's going to them, how to find out. That is really hard. Generally, there's networking apps that come as part of these events, the tickets you buy. So you're targeting single people in these huge companies that you need to talk to and seeing where they're going to be based and how do I get there? Thankfully, with the last one was only in Amsterdam, but the other one was, as I said, west coast of the US, and that's a lot harder to go to. There's another one in Chicago, early July. Also, we're in a FoodWorks program, which is support by three agencies in Ireland, so Bordea, Chagask and EI. They're putting us in front of another major player. So it's leaning into your network and also mainly doing the digging yourself, which takes a long time.
A long time. You can see it on your face,
Yeah.
just the,
It's
the
stressful.
sheer time.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Obviously, the potential and the opportunity for the solution within the market is ginormous. So it's going to take time
It is.
and effort. What advice would you give, Nicholas, to anybody who's starting where you were 4 or 5 years ago? What would you do differently?
What would I do differently? Lean into your network as much as you can. Leave your pride at the door. Talk to as many people as you can. Honestly, actually get into one of these accelerators. Let's say the further foundry one, because then you're instantly in 12 other people's networks, and then you're in their networks, and then go to all the events, go to everything. Because at the start I didn't, and I was like, I don't have time to do that because I'm focusing on the business. I need to get from X, A, B to C. Yeah, but getting from A to C is 100 times faster when you start talking to people and you start getting into, let's say, Enterprise Ireland. You start getting into those networks. Everyone knows everyone, especially in Ireland. Everyone knows everyone. And then also they know people overseas as well. So I don't know where we could be, but we'd certainly be further down the line if I'd started that earlier.
Yeah, it slowed you down, you think?
100%. Because I had this fixed idea in my head. Oh no, you don't have time to do that. It's like, no, that's actually saving you time by doing that.
Yeah. But then you have to get over, if you're not in the business doing the work, who is going to do it? And therefore you have to be able to afford to pay, or you need to get somebody in who's going to do it for free or for maybe for very little.
Yeah.
And that's hard. So you're trying to weigh all that up. And sometimes you just have to go through the pain to figure that out.
Yeah.
You know, or some people think they can do it all and then they burn out.
Yeah. I nearly did that a lot of times. Certainly for the first year and a half, I worked a disgusting amount. That was unsustainable. I needed to actively step back. Like I'd be waking up at night in 4 a.m, and then suddenly I'd start working then because there'd be a problem on my head, and then you'd work through the day, and it's a terrible way to work. And you're foggy the whole time, but you're trying so hard to not be foggy. So also, actually, another thing I would say is if you can find a co-founder. If there's co-founder events, like I know is it Republic of Work and Dogpatch, they have these founder weekends that they're geared towards SaaS and software. But if you can find someone that also has not your strengths, obviously the opposite strengths, like if you lack in X, Y, and Z, to find a founder who can do that. Now, it's not easy to say find a founder. What does that mean? It's very difficult, and don't push it and don't try and make it work for the sake of having a co-founder, but it just means that you're sharing it with another person.
It's shared the risk as well.
Yeah, everything.
It's shared the risk, Nicholas, because you're carrying it. You don't have a co-founder, is that right?
No.
So you're carrying all of that yourself for the most part.
Yeah.
And that's really hard. So having somebody along for the ride is just easier. 2 heads are just better than one, you know?
Yeah.
Definitely hard to do it by yourself.
Yeah.
But equally hard to find. I've been at those co-founder events. Equally hard to find a co-founder, I think. So many things come into it. You know, skills, as you've already mentioned, personality, stage of life. You know, there's so many things that come into it there. But if you are lucky enough to find somebody, and I always look on those guys with envy, you know, who if there's 2 or 3 or 4 individuals who come together, they're very lucky in that way.
Yeah. Oh, no, they are. Absolutely. But it is a case of also, you go to a founder event, you don't know that person. So maybe having that founder's agreement, everyone says it, have the founder's agreement in place, and maybe do it that you trial it for 3 months. If one person generate the lead, or like if you're bringing the business to that person, that means you're, I suppose, the main founder. So if we said, look, I'll trial a founder's agreement for 3-6 months or whatever. If it doesn't work out, we'll split ways. But I don't know. It's very tricky.
Yeah,
it's
really
because
tricky.
like, what is it? You have to be able to marry the person, but also be able to divorce them too. So it's hard.
Yeah.
It is hard.
You have to go in with the end in mind. That's always the way with these things. You know, this agreement, the shareholders agreement, founders agreement, it gets you out if you need to and when you need to, you know. Because
I know people who've been pushed out of their own companies and at early stage or early to mid stages, and because of improper founders agreements. So
that's scary.
Yeah, it is scary.
Yeah.
It's terrifying.
It is scary.
Yeah.
And just in case there's somebody listening who would invest in the business, you're currently raising for seed round.
Yes.
It's just launched. When are you hoping to close that round by?
We have everything lined up, thankfully. We've planned quite well. So we are waiting to pull the trigger. So we want to do it as soon as possible without just taking any kind of money. We want value add money. Sorry. So what I mean by that is there are people that are willing to invest, but I need the value add. Can you bring us to customers? Can you bring us to distributor networks? Can you help us with manufacturing? Can you help us with scale up? Whatever, that kind of value add. Finding the right investor is really important at this stage. So that's the main thing. But yeah, we're looking to close it up certainly in the next number of weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully. Well, look, best of luck with the journey. It's been fascinating to hear the progress so far. And you might come back again and update us whenever you're a bit further down the road and maybe you have the product to market.
Yeah.
Nicholas Deeney, founder and director of Biovit Technologies, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Thank you for listening to Real Business Conversations with Kinore. For more information on this episode, see the description area of this podcast or visit our website, kinore.com. Remember to press follow on your podcast player now so you'll get a brand new episode every single month. This podcast is produced by DustPod.io for Kinore Finance and Business Services.